Thomas had always loved walking along the coast. He worked hard every day at the colony, fixing machines and helping build new shelters for the people who lived on Kepler 452b. But when the sun started to go down, he would leave everything behind and walk to the cliffs by the sea. It was his favorite place. The water here was different from Earth's oceans. It glowed with a soft blue and green light, and strange creatures lived in it. Sometimes he would sit on the rocks and watch the water shimmer in the darkness. It made him feel calm and peaceful. On this particular evening, Thomas had walked further than usual. The twin suns were disappearing below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. The bioluminescent water was becoming brighter as the natural light faded. He was thinking about nothing in particular, just enjoying the quiet, when he heard a sound that made him stop walking. It was a cry, but not like any animal he had ever heard before. It was desperate and frightened. It came from the water. Thomas rushed to the edge of the cliff and looked down. His heart began to beat faster. In the glowing water below, something was struggling. It was large and moved with powerful motions, but it was clearly in trouble. The creature was fighting against the current, trying to stay above the surface, but something was pulling it down. Thomas could see it sinking and rising, sinking and rising. Each time it rose, the cry came again, that terrible sound of fear and pain. Without thinking about the danger, without considering what this creature might be, Thomas began climbing down the rocky path that led to the beach. His feet found holds in the stone, and he moved as quickly as he could. His mind was racing. He had no idea what was in that water, but he knew that something living was dying and he had to help. When he reached the sand, Thomas did not hesitate. He ran straight into the bioluminescent water. The liquid was warm and thick, nothing like ocean water on Earth. As he waded deeper, he could see the creature more clearly. It was like nothing he had ever seen before. It had the shape of a cat, but a massive one, with muscles rippling beneath fur that seemed to change color in the glowing water. The fur was a deep purple in some places and gold in others, shimmering with every movement. Its head was large and powerful, with pointed ears and a long face. But what struck Thomas most were its eyes. Even in distress, they were intelligent and aware. This was no ordinary animal. The creature saw Thomas coming and tried to move away, but it could not. Thomas could now see what was holding it down. A thick metal snare, covered in barnacles and rust, was wrapped around the creature's rear leg. The more the animal struggled, the tighter it seemed to become. Thomas understood now. The creature was not sick or injured. It was trapped. Thomas took a deep breath and dove under the water. The bioluminescence made it easier to see than he expected. He could clearly see the snare and how it was attached to a heavy metal anchor on the seafloor. His lungs already hurt from holding his breath, and his eyes stung in the salt water. But he worked at the snare, trying to find a way to loosen it. His fingers were clumsy and cold. He pulled and twisted at the metal, but it would not move. He was running out of air. He had to go back to the surface. Thomas burst through the water, gasping for breath. The creature looked at him with those intelligent eyes, and Thomas saw something there. He saw hope. The animal seemed to understand that Thomas was trying to help. Thomas took several deep breaths, preparing himself for another attempt. He dove again, going deeper this time, fighting the pressure in his chest. He examined the snare more carefully. There was a mechanism, a lock of some kind. It was not made to trap animals. It was made by intelligent beings. This snare was designed to hold something. Someone perhaps. Thomas worked at the lock, using all his strength. His vision began to blur. Black spots appeared at the edges. He was going to lose consciousness. But then, suddenly, the lock gave way. The snare fell open. Thomas grabbed the creature's leg and pulled upward with all the strength he had left. The animal helped, pulling against the current with its powerful muscles. Together, they fought their way toward the surface. Thomas's lungs felt like they were going to burst. He could not hold on any longer. Then his head broke through the water's surface and he gasped for air. The creature burst through beside him, also breathing hard. They swam together toward the shore, Thomas pulling and pushing the heavy animal forward. It was incredibly difficult. The creature must have weighed as much as 10 human beings, and it was weak from struggling. But Thomas did not give up. He pushed through the water, his arms burning with effort. Finally, his feet touched the sand. He staggered forward, dragging the creature with him. They both collapsed on the beach, coughing and gasping. For a long time, neither of them moved. Thomas lay in the sand, his chest heaving, unable to do anything but breathe. The creature lay beside him, water running from its fur. Slowly, its breathing became less desperate. Its body relaxed. Thomas turned his head to look at it. The creature opened its eyes. They were still that impossible amber color, and they were fixed directly on Thomas. In that moment, something strange happened. Thomas felt a connection to this animal, this alien being that he had just saved from drowning. It was as if the act of saving its life had created a bond between them. The creature seemed to feel it too. Then, as the water dried from its fur, something caught the fading light. Something metallic gleamed around the creature's neck. Thomas's eyes widened as he saw it clearly. A collar. A technological collar unlike anything humans had created. And below that, some kind of marking. A symbol. A military insignia. Thomas's blood suddenly turned cold. His skin went pale. His heart, which had been calming down, began to race again. He sat up slowly, his eyes never leaving the creature's neck. This was not just an animal he had saved. This was something much more complicated. This was something dangerous. And as he stared at the collar and the insignia beneath it, Thomas realized that his life had just changed forever. Thomas sat up very slowly on the sand, his eyes still fixed on the collar around the creature's neck. His mind was racing with questions and fear. The collar was made of a dark metal that he did not recognize. It was smooth and sleek, nothing like human technology. Symbols were etched into its surface, and a small blue light blinked steadily on the front. This was not something that belonged on Earth or even on this colony. This was something from somewhere else. Someone else. The creature began to move. It shook its enormous body, and water flew off its fur in all directions. The movement was slow and careful, as if the animal was making sure its body still worked properly. Thomas watched as the water ran down the creature's fur, and as it did, something remarkable happened. The colors changed. What he had thought was purple and gold began to fade, and underneath he could see different patterns. The fur was actually a much darker color, with stripes and spots that seemed to shift and change in the bioluminescent light from the water. But it was not just the colors that caught Thomas's attention. As more water fell away, he could see something else beneath the collar. There was an outline of something more, something implanted into the creature's neck. It looked like some kind of device, a piece of technology that had been placed directly into the alien's body. Thomas had read about such things in the colony database. Neural interfaces. They were used by military forces. They were used to connect soldiers to machines and weapons. They were used to enhance and control. Thomas felt his stomach twist with fear and confusion. He slowly stood up, taking a step back from the creature. His legs felt weak beneath him. The creature watched him, its amber eyes following his every movement. For the first time, Thomas was truly afraid of this animal. Not because it might attack him, but because he was beginning to understand what it was. This was not just a rare alien species. This was a soldier. "You should not be afraid," a voice said. Thomas jumped back in terror. He had not seen any other creature on the beach. He had not heard anyone approach. Yet someone had spoken to him. He looked around frantically, searching for the source of the voice. "I am speaking to you through the translator in your wrist device," the voice said again, and now Thomas recognized that it was coming through his colony communication implant. Every human on Kepler 452b received one when they arrived. It was used for emergencies and important messages. He had never heard it make a sound like this before. It had never translated an alien voice before. Thomas looked back at the creature. The small blue light on its collar was blinking faster now. The creature's mouth did not move, but the voice continued through Thomas's implant. It was calm and clear like a female voice, but also something more. There was an authority in the tone, a confidence that made Thomas understand that this creature was not just any animal. "My name is Kira," the voice said. "I am a scout commander of the Valerian Collective, and you have just saved my life. I owe you a debt that I cannot easily repay." Thomas's heart felt like it stopped beating. The words made no sense to him, but they made perfect sense at the same time. Valerian. He knew that word. Everyone in the colony knew that word. The Valorians were the enemy. They were a military force from the far reaches of space, and they had been fighting against humanity for decades. There had been battles. There had been deaths. And now, standing on a beach on an alien world, Thomas had just saved the life of a Valerian soldier. "You are afraid," Kira said, and there was something like sadness in her voice. "That is understandable. Your people have been taught to fear mine. We have fought many battles. Many of your soldiers have died by the hands of my people, and many of my people have died by the hands of yours. But I did not come to this place to fight. I came for a different reason entirely." Thomas found his voice, though it was shaky and weak. "Why are you here? On our colony? On this planet?" Kira stood up, and Thomas realized just how tall and powerful she really was. Standing on her back legs, she was almost as tall as Thomas, and she was clearly much stronger. Her muscles moved beneath her fur with each motion. Her claws, which Thomas had not noticed before, were long and curved and looked very sharp. For a moment, Thomas was certain that he was about to die. But Kira did not move toward him. Instead, she sat down on the sand, her tail curling around her body. The motion was calm and peaceful, and it reminded Thomas of how a regular house cat might sit. The gesture seemed designed to make him feel less afraid. "I was hunting," Kira said through the translator. "I was tracking something dangerous. Something evil. The snare you freed me from was not placed by fishermen or by anyone from your colony. It was placed by people who wanted to capture me. People who knew I was coming after them." Thomas's fear began to change into confusion. "People? What people?" "Criminals," Kira said simply. "They work for an organization called the Syndicate. They move illegal goods across the galaxy. Weapons, stolen technology, and other things. But the worst thing they move is people. Living beings. Innocent people." Thomas listened as Kira explained. She told him about the smuggling operation that had been happening in this region of space. She told him about ships that came in the night and took valuable cargo. She told him about how the Coalition and the Valerian Collective had both discovered the operation, but neither side trusted the other enough to work together. And then, in a voice that became harder and colder, Kira told him about what the Syndicate was really trafficking. "Children," Kira said. "Human children. Your people. They are taken from mining colonies and small settlements. Children who have no one to protect them. Children who are sold to the highest bidder." Thomas felt sick. His mind could not fully accept what he was hearing. He wanted to believe that this was not true, that such evil could not exist. But he had read the colony records. He knew that supplies sometimes went missing. He knew that some people vanished without explanation. He had always assumed they had simply moved to another colony or decided to leave for Earth. But now, hearing Kira's words, he understood the truth. "Why are you telling me this?" Thomas asked. Kira looked at him with those amber eyes, and Thomas saw something in them that surprised him. He saw respect. He saw recognition. "Because you saved my life when you could have left me to die. Because you did not know what I was, but you helped me anyway. That tells me something important about you, Thomas. It tells me that you are capable of seeing beyond fear and beyond the stories you have been told. I believe that you might be the kind of human who could help me stop this evil." Thomas stood on the beach, the bioluminescent water glowing around him, and realized that nothing in his life would ever be the same again. The days that followed were strange and dangerous for Thomas. He could not tell anyone about Kira. He could not explain where he had been or why he kept disappearing from the colony. He had to create a hiding place for the Valerian commander, a cave hidden behind the rocks near the shore where no one from the settlement would ever find her. Thomas brought food and water, making excuses to his friends about needing time alone. They thought he was becoming strange, but they did not push him for answers. During these days, Thomas learned more about Kira. She was not what he had expected an alien soldier to be. Yes, she was powerful and strong, with claws and teeth that could tear a person apart. But she was also intelligent and thoughtful. She spoke about her home world with a kind of sadness in her voice. She spoke about her family, about the Valerian traditions, about the code of honor that guided her people. And most importantly, she spoke about the children. Kira showed Thomas images on a small device she carried. These images came from her intelligence gathering. They showed ships moving through space at night. They showed loading docks where small figures were being moved from one vessel to another. The figures were human. The figures were children. Some looked no older than 8 or 9 years old. Others were teenagers. All of them looked frightened and lost. "How many?" Thomas asked, his voice breaking with emotion. "At least 300 in this region alone," Kira said quietly. "But across the galaxy the numbers are much higher. Thousands, perhaps tens of thousands. The Syndicate has been operating for many years, and no one has been able to stop them." Thomas felt anger rising inside him, an anger he had never felt before. These were not just statistics or distant victims. These were real children. They could have been his younger sister. They could have been the children of people he knew. They were being stolen, taken from their homes and their families, and sold like objects. "Why hasn't the Coalition stopped them?" Thomas asked. "Why haven't your people stopped them?" Kira made a sound that was like a sigh, though it came through his translator device. "Because the two governments do not trust each other. The Coalition believes that my people are behind the smuggling. My government believes that your people are involved. We have been accusing each other for so long that we have forgotten to look at the real enemy. The Syndicate uses this conflict between us. They move in the shadows while we point weapons at each other across the void of space." Over the next week, Kira revealed more details about her mission. She had come to Kepler 452b because intelligence suggested that one of the main distribution centers for the syndicate was hidden somewhere in this region. The snare that had trapped her had been set as a trap for her specifically. Someone on the colony, or perhaps someone working with people on the colony, knew that she was coming. They had tried to capture her or kill her. But who? Thomas asked. Who on the colony would work with the syndicate? I do not know yet, Kira admitted. That is what I was trying to discover when I was trapped. I was searching for the center looking for evidence. But I was discovered and they tried to eliminate me. Thomas began to help Kira gather information. He moved through the colony, listening to conversations, watching for anything suspicious. He accessed the colony computer system and searched through records of incoming and outgoing ships. What he found made his blood run cold. There was a supply ship that came to the colony every month. It was supposed to deliver food and medical supplies from the main human settlements. But Thomas noticed something strange. The ship always arrived late at night. It never stayed long. And the manifest, the list of what was being delivered, never matched what actually arrived at the colony stores. Thomas brought this information to Kira, and the Valerian commander's eyes became sharp and focused. This is it, she said. This is how they are moving the children. The ship delivers supplies to cover its true purpose. But it is also picking up cargo. The cargo is the children. Then we need to tell someone, Thomas said. We need to tell the colony administrator. We need to tell the coalition authorities. Kira shook her head slowly. We cannot trust the local authorities. Someone here is involved in this operation. If we tell the wrong person, they will disappear and we will never find the children. We need proof. We need to catch them in the act. Over the next 2 weeks, Thomas and Kira made a plan. They would wait for the next supply ship. When it arrived, they would follow it. They would find out where it went and what it was really doing. Thomas felt fear and excitement mixing together inside him. He was going to do something that could change everything. But something unexpected happened first. A young woman named Emma, who worked with Thomas in the maintenance division, noticed that he was acting strangely. She followed him one afternoon and discovered the cave where Kira was hiding. Thomas's heart almost stopped when Emma saw Kira. He was certain that she would scream, that she would run back to the colony and report him. But Emma did not do those things. Instead, she stood very still, looking at the massive alien creature before her. And then, to Thomas's complete surprise, Emma spoke. You are hunting the syndicate, Emma said. It was not a question. She seemed to already know. Kira looked at Thomas with a questioning expression. Thomas shrugged, uncertain how to explain. Emma continued. My little brother was taken 3 years ago. We thought he died in an accident at the mining camp. But I found records that suggested otherwise. I have been trying to find out what happened to him ever since. I have suspected that something evil was happening, but I had no proof. Kira stood up slowly, her tail moving side to side. You can help us, she said to Emma. Thomas and I are planning to stop the syndicate. We need someone inside the colony who can help us gather more information. Someone the authorities trust. Can you do this? Emma's jaw tightened with determination. Yes, she said. If there is any chance that my brother is still alive, if there is any chance I can help save other children, I will do anything. And so Thomas found himself no longer alone in his secret. Now he had a partner in this dangerous mission. Now they had the chance to strike back against the evil that had been hiding in the shadows. The real work was about to begin. The next supply ship was scheduled to arrive in 5 days. Thomas, Emma, and Kira spent those 5 days preparing. Kira's injuries were healing quickly, much faster than Thomas had expected. She explained that Valorians had advanced healing abilities, something in their biology that allowed them to recover from wounds that would kill a human. Within a week, she was moving with full strength and agility again. The only reminder of her near-death experience was a slight limp in her back leg, and even that was fading. Emma brought them information about the supply ship's schedule and the people involved in receiving it. She worked in the communications department, and she had access to records that most colonists would never see. What she discovered was shocking. The ship's captain was a man named Robert, who had been on the colony for only 2 years. He had no real connections to the settlement. He kept to himself and rarely spent time with other colonists. He arrived just before each supply delivery and left immediately after. He is definitely involved, Emma said, showing them the records on a small handheld device. But he is not acting alone. Someone in the colony administration has to be helping him. Someone with authority. Thomas felt a cold chill run down his spine. It meant that corruption had already infected the colony leadership. It meant that the evil Kira had told him about was not just somewhere far away. It was here. It was close. On the night the supply ship was expected to arrive, the three of them made their final preparations. Kira had insisted that she go alone to investigate the ship. Thomas and Emma would stay at a safe distance, ready to alert authorities if things went wrong. But Thomas was not comfortable with this plan. "You cannot go alone," Thomas argued. "It is too dangerous. There could be armed guards. There could be weapons." Kira looked at him with those amber eyes, and Thomas saw both kindness and sadness there. "I am a Valerian soldier," she said quietly. "I am trained for exactly this kind of danger. But I need you to understand something, Thomas. This mission could end badly for me. I might be captured. I might be killed. And if that happens, you and Emma must continue without me. You must find another way to stop them." "No," Thomas said firmly. "I did not save your life just to lose you now. We do this together or we do not do it at all." Kira was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "You are brave, Thomas. Braver than most humans I have known. But bravery alone is not always enough. You must understand what you are asking. If you come with me, if you are seen by the syndicate, your life will never be the same. You will be marked as a traitor to the coalition. You will be hunted." Thomas took a deep breath. He thought about Emma's brother, about the 300 children that Kira had mentioned, about all the families who had lost loved ones to the syndicate. He thought about what his life had been before he pulled Kira from the water. He thought about the safe, ordinary existence he had lived in the colony, working his job and going through each day without thinking much about anything larger than himself. That life seemed very small now. It seemed insignificant when compared to the suffering of so many innocent people. "I understand," Thomas said. "And I am choosing to do this anyway." Emma stepped forward. "I am coming too," she said. "My brother is out there somewhere. I need to know the truth. And if I can help stop the people who took him, then I am willing to accept whatever consequences come." Kira looked at both of them, and Thomas could see the emotions moving across her face. She was moved by their courage, but she was also concerned for their safety. Finally she nodded. "Then we do this together," she said. "But we do it my way. We do it carefully and we do it smart." The plan was simple but dangerous. They would hide near the landing dock where the supply ship usually unloaded its cargo. They would wait and watch. They would gather evidence. And if they discovered that children were being moved, they would record everything and then report it to the coalition authorities. Kira said she had contacts in the military who she trusted, people who could help. As the night grew darker, the three of them moved into position. They hid behind some large storage containers near the dock. The air was cold and Thomas could feel his heart beating fast in his chest. Emma was breathing heavily beside him, her face pale with fear and anticipation. Then they saw lights in the sky. The supply ship was approaching. The ship descended slowly, its landing thrusters creating clouds of dust and smoke. It was larger than Thomas had expected, much larger than a simple supply vessel should be. As the landing ramp descended, Thomas saw figures moving inside. Military figures. Armed guards in uniforms that were not coalition uniforms and not Valerian uniforms either. These uniforms were unmarked, anonymous. Robert, the ship's captain, emerged from the colony administrative building. He was not alone. With him came the colony administrator, a woman named Catherine who Thomas had always respected. Seeing her here working with the syndicate made Thomas feel sick. But what came next was worse. The cargo ramp of the ship descended further, and children began to emerge. Real children, just like in Kira's images. They looked frightened and confused. Some of them were crying. Guards were leading them toward transport vehicles that were hidden behind the storage area. Thomas felt rage building inside him. These were children from the colony. He recognized some of them. There was a boy named David who had gone missing from the school 3 months ago. There was a girl named Sophie who had disappeared from her family's quarters. They were here. They were being taken away. Thomas started to move, his body acting before his mind could think, but Kira's paw grabbed his shoulder firmly. She held him in place, and Thomas realized that moving now would ruin everything. They needed to get proof. They needed to document this. Emma was recording everything on her handheld device, her hands shaking with emotion and fear. Tears were running down her face. Suddenly she let out a small gasp. "That is him," she whispered. "That is my brother. That is Daniel." Thomas saw a teenage boy being led toward one of the vehicles. He looked thin and tired, but it was clearly Emma's brother. Emma started to move, but Thomas held her back this time. "We have to wait," he whispered. "We have to get proof first." But as they watched, something unexpected happened. One of the guards turned and looked directly at their hiding place. For a moment, Thomas thought they had been discovered. But then the guard's radio crackled and he turned away. That was when Kira made her decision. Now, she said quietly. We move now while they are distracted. Kira emerged from her hiding place, her form massive and terrifying in the darkness. The guards saw her immediately and began shouting. Weapons were drawn. This was the moment. This was the choice. There was no turning back. Thomas and Emma ran forward beside Kira, and the night erupted into chaos. Everything they had planned for was about to unfold. Everything was about to change. The moment Kira stepped into the light, everything changed. The guards froze for just a second, their brains struggling to understand what they were seeing. A massive alien creature, a Valerian, standing right in front of them. Then chaos erupted. Get down? Kira roared through her translator, and Thomas and Emma threw themselves to the ground. Laser fire filled the air above their heads, bright red beams that left trails of heat and light. Kira moved with incredible speed and power. She was faster than any human, faster than the guards could react. She disarmed the first two guards without even touching them, her movements so quick and controlled that the weapons simply fell from their hands. But there were too many guards. More emerged from the ship, and Thomas realized that the syndicate had been prepared for trouble. This was not a simple smuggling operation. It was a military organization with trained soldiers. Fall back. Kira commanded, and she positioned herself between Thomas and the guards, her massive body shielding them from the laser fire. Thomas could see scorch marks appearing on her fur where the beams grazed her skin. She was taking damage to protect them. Emma was still recording on her device, her hands steady despite the danger all around her. Thomas grabbed her arm. We need to move, he shouted. We need to get those children to safety. The children who had been emerging from the ship were now scattered and confused. Some had fallen to the ground in terror. Others were running in different directions. The guards were trying to round them up again, but the sudden appearance of Kira had thrown everything into disorder. Catherine, the colony administrator, was shouting orders that no one could hear over the sound of laser fire and chaos. Robert was nowhere to be seen. He had apparently fled the moment trouble started. Thomas made a decision that would change everything. He ran directly toward the children, moving as fast as his legs could carry him. Emma was right beside him. Together, they began gathering the frightened young people, leading them away from the danger toward the colony buildings. This way, Thomas shouted. Come with us. We will keep you safe. Most of the children followed, their fear of the guards greater than their fear of the unknown humans. But some hung back, uncertain and confused. Thomas looked back and saw Kira still fighting with the guards, still protecting them all. He saw her take a direct hit from a laser beam, and she stumbled backward, blood appearing in her fur. No! Thomas cried out, but Emma pulled him forward. She will be all right, Emma said, though her voice shook with uncertainty. We have to get these children to safety first. That is what matters. They reached the colony buildings and began leading the children inside. The alarm system was activated now, and Thomas knew that the entire settlement would soon be awake and aware of what was happening. That was actually good. The more people who knew, the harder it would be for the syndicate to cover this up. Back at the dock, Kira was making a strategic retreat. She was wounded but still fighting with incredible skill and determination. The guards were pressing her back toward the storage containers, but she was moving in a direction that would take her away from the children and toward the ship. She was drawing the guards' attention away from the escaping prisoners. Suddenly there was a new sound. The unmistakable hum of coalition military vessels descending from the sky. Multiple ships, weapon systems charging. The guards froze. It appeared that Emma's message to the coalition authorities had gotten through. Help was arriving. The guards immediately tried to retreat back into their ship, but Kira was blocking their path. She stood alone, blood dripping from her wounds, facing down armed soldiers. She did not move. She did not yield. Surrender now, came a voice from the coalition ships overhead. You are surrounded and outgunned. The guards looked at each other, then at Kira, then at the sky. They understood that they were trapped. Weapons fell to the ground. Hands went up. The fight was over. Thomas ran back outside to find Kira collapsed on the ground, her breathing heavy and labored. He fell to his knees beside her, his hands hovering uncertainly over her wounds. Kira, hold on. Help is here. Medical help is coming. Kira's amber eyes opened and looked at him. A weak smile appeared on her face. We did it, she said quietly. We stopped them. Over the next several hours, everything became a blur of activity. Coalition soldiers secured the area. Medical teams arrived to treat both the children and Kira's injuries. Catherine was arrested, along with several other colony officials who had been complicit in the smuggling operation. Robert was found trying to escape and was taken into custody. The children were counted and accounted for. 312 young people, all from various human colonies across the region, all rescued in a single night. Families would be reunited. Children would go home. It was a victory that seemed almost impossible just hours before. Emma found her brother Daniel among the rescued. They fell into each other's arms, both crying. Thomas watched them embrace and he felt something shift inside his heart. This was why they had done it. This moment, right here, made all the danger and fear worth it. 2 weeks later, Thomas stood in a formal diplomatic chamber on a neutral space station. Representatives from the Coalition and representatives from the Valerian Collective were present. Kira was also there, her wounds healed, her fur glossy and healthy. Emma stood beside Thomas, still in shock at everything that had happened. The Coalition commander stepped forward. "What you three have accomplished is extraordinary," he said, looking at Thomas, Emma, and Kira. "You have exposed a criminal organization that we have been hunting for years. You have recovered stolen citizens. You have proven that humans and Valorians can work together for a common good." A Valerian officer also stepped forward, bowing respectfully to Kira. "You have brought honor to our people," the officer said. "And you have shown that bridge building between our species is possible." Thomas looked at Kira and she looked back at him. In her amber eyes, he saw the reflection of the night they had met in the water. He saw the journey they had taken together. He saw the impossible alliance that had become real. "What happens now?" Thomas asked. The Coalition commander smiled. "Now we form a joint task force. A coalition of both humans and Valorians working together to hunt the remaining members of the syndicate. We need people like you. We need people willing to cross boundaries and see past old enemies." Thomas took a deep breath. He thought about his old life, about the safety and simplicity of his existence in the colony. That life seemed like it belonged to a different person. "I am ready," Thomas said. "Whatever you need from me, I am ready." Kira placed her large paw on his shoulder, and together they looked out toward the stars, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead.